It's the beginning of spring, and today I have Kevin and Stephen, both from Oreterra and one of my favorite companies on the Canadian stock market. Kevin, can you just go over what we just discussed in Investor Talk about your competitive advantage? One of the questions was about how you can have a porphyry system when you are a small cap. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, we've done our work over the last several years, Tracy. This is field work that has led us to identify a copper gold porphyry target right in the heart of BC's Golden Triangle. Um, we also coupled that with a restructuring of the company and a recent major financing, which leads us, as I'm speaking to you, to be fully financed and ready to drill our Trek South copper gold porphyry this summer. And it is new to science. So I think we're positioned now for those of your viewers who may be looking for near-term potential capital gains because we have the money, we have the target, it's copper and gold, and these are hot commodities at present. So I would advise them to look at our story and perhaps pick up some of the stock ahead of what's surely going to be a really exciting summer.
And of course, a great deal has happened with Oreterra in a brief period of time. Stephen, can you tell those out there a little bit more about how Oreterra has progressed in the last year, please?
Absolutely, Tracy. So over the last 8 months, I was very fortunate to have been introduced to Kevin, and we worked together over a series of months to try and structure an option for the Trek South properties. And we quickly realized what was best for the company and best suited for this target was to bring Kevin on board. Was very happy for Kevin to take over as the CEO of the company. And of course, I'm staying on as president. And the goal was to collectively restructure the company, go through a process of dealing with some significant debt that I had accumulated over the years, and working towards a full rebranding and providing the company with an opportunity to finance significant financing in order to do justice and be able to bring enough work to the Trek South project as our priority project. So we went through this process. We renamed to Oreterra. Obviously, you go through the AGM, the special meetings, and it was amazing to see the resounding support that we received from our existing shareholder base for this process. Debt settlements took place, and we're a debt-free company with $9.7 million in the bank and an extraordinary target at Trek South to be worked on this summer. Of course, we've also been working towards developing our plans through our partnership with Equity Exploration and we've been building out our service provider list. So with drillers and helicopters and all of the support systems are now in place for this great program that we're planning for this summer.
One of the interesting stories that we were discussing, Kevin, during PDAC was how fast you were able to raise capital this last round. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, I've never experienced in my whole career, Tracy, a response like that. I guess it's symptomatic of the market and the fact that we really do have something compelling to sell. But we set out to raise $6 million, and um, it was evident even by noon on the first day of marketing that it was going to be a major success. We marketed for one day and then stopped because it had become totally chaotic, a gong show, as some might put it. Um, Stopped marketing after a day because we'd already raised basically the 6 million. And then over the subsequent week, the interest just kept coming. It just didn't stop. So we raised the financing from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9. We ended up closing at about 9.7, a little under that. We could have done 10 million, but having done all that marketing, I don't like to disappoint people that you've approached. So they were obviously captivated by the story, by the fact it's copper gold. It's in the heart of the Golden Triangle, and it's totally fresh and new as a target, and the market always likes that. They like to envisage some blowout success potentially. And I think we do have that. We have to keep our fingers crossed, but we've got the data to indicate that we've got possibly the best new copper gold porphyry target in the province of British Columbia. It's that strong.
Well, let me just throw this back at you, Stephen. When I used to talk to you about Romeo's Gold, if I recall, you had 27 projects. What made the Trek South the exciting treasure in the treasure hunt that you guys are on?
Well, we had some success many years back at Trek North on the other side of the project area. We identified the right mineralization. That the company had spent some near $10 million drilling it in between '09 and 2011. Unfortunately, wasn't quite as big as we would have liked to. It's also was a difficult area to operate at. What as we've always talked about, we've had this amazing suite of potential targets in BC and an enormous land package. While working on some of those project areas, John Bigsock, our VP of Exploration, identified from the helicopter some potential visual cues that resulted in them landing. Of course, Trek South at the time when we were operating in the north of the project was covered in glacier. So with that glacial retreat, it opened up a brand new target area for us. And well, we all would agree that our business is a lot of science and a little bit of luck as well. So we're really fortunate to be sitting at Trek South with such extraordinary potential, and it quickly ran up the ranks of all against all of our projects and targets that we have in BC and became the number one target without a question. So, to your point, Tracy, yes, we still have many other targets to look at, but Trek South is far and beyond, all of the other targets combined right now. We're really quite excited about the potential for this summer's drill program.
Well, I noticed your most recent news release, and of course, those of you following Oreterra will be pleased at how many news releases and how regularly you're putting out news releases. The Kincaid project in Nevada. What's going on with that, Kevin? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, Kincaid is rather exciting as well. This is another one. Stephen had actually put his finger on it years ago, and John Bitsock's done a lot of work on that. Um, it is another copper, gold, silver, porphyry style play, Tracy. It's in a great location, the Walker Lane. It's not far east of Hawthorne, Nevada. Great access. It is covered, that is the target area, the property is covered in a lot of old workings going back to the cowboy era. They appear to have been mining in a small way copper, gold, and silver, very high grade veins. So I think the our belief is that what they were mining was just the surface manifestation of an underlying porphyry center. That is a large intrusive body and maybe several bodies that brought the metal up. And basically, the old timers were working the shallow material on surface. We think there's potentially some very big bodies below. And the next steps there this season, we're going to be doing the geophysics, hopefully to identify the underlying targets. They'll become our drill targets. Cross your finger, but it should be ready to drill by the close of the season.
One of the Investor Talk audience members was asking about perhaps, and I think our audience would enjoy this, explaining what the difference is between having a high grade vein versus hitting and finding a porphyry and what that might mean for shareholders. Stephen, do you want to explain that to us?
Well, sure. I think in essence, what we were describing was the fact that the high grade vein systems oftentimes the distribution of the mineralization and of the metals can be difficult to quantify. And we were using some examples of Canadian examples where it took a lot more work and energy and costs associated to identifying and confirming resource estimates, as opposed to a porphyry structure, which typically has a more uniform distribution or allows for a lesser density of drilling to achieve that resource estimate. So these porphyry structures are very large. Perhaps they're not necessarily as high grade. The mineralization isn't as high grade, but the volume, quantity of potential mineralization is significantly higher. And the distribution of that is more common and more potentially regular. So that density of drilling that's required in order to produce a resource estimate that's compliant to 43101 standards within a porphyry structure, rather than perhaps epithermal vein systems, allows for a less dense drill pattern. So I think that was the essence of what we were trying to discuss earlier, was the idea that the actual costs associated with drilling out a porphyry, early stage costs, allows there's a potential huge factor in difference than the potential costs associated with large scale veining systems that necessarily don't always hold together as tightly as a porphyry structure might.
So, Kevin, where are you driving Oreterra next in the next quarter?
Well, we're driving it to incipient drilling. I mean, that's what it's all about now, Tracy. We have the money, we've got our contractors lined up, and we should be building our camp by the 15th or 16th of July. Should be drilling by the end of the month, and we should be able to drill right out until October, into October. We're going to start with 2 drills. And we'll follow the drill plan that we announced in January that's in the technical report. So, yeah, we're all ready to go. It's been a lot of work to get here, but we have something potentially really significant to offer investors, and that is the prospect of a major discovery, a copper gold discovery this summer in one of the best jurisdictions in the country, and certainly the best geological real estate in the country, and that's the Golden Triangle. So people, if they want to gamble a little, because there's still some risk involved, we are a very, very compelling gamble because it could pay off big time when those drills start turning.
Well, you heard it here first on Investor News. For those of you interested in learning more about Oreterra, please go to the following website. Thank you so much, Kevin, and of course, Stephen, for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy.